Mirror on the wall.
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie.
My queen, Snow White.
I know that there is also another Snow White that I think you guys want me to talk about. I am sorry that that has not been addressed sooner, but I just want to say, from me, that's really all I can say. Which honestly kind of seems like maybe this path that I'm taking right now is the path that Rachel Zegler should have taken instead of just running her mouth for the last.
Is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
All right, some entertainment news. Snow White releases today. It's currently sitting at 46% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's the critics score. So, you know, this thing has to be really, really bad. I mean, the critics were looking for any excuse to give it a high score. They know that conservatives don't like Rachel Zegler. They know that Zegler, you know, is a good little feminist. This Snow White version is woke and feminist and progressive. So mainstream film critics want to like a movie like this. It checks all the narrative boxes, it checks all the political boxes, and yet they're still panning it. Like, even they couldn't find a way to pretend that this piece of trash is anything but a piece of trash.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. So we didn't do that this time. And we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince. And the cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated.
In Hollywood, it's common for casting changes and new creative choices to spark big reactions from fans. The latest buzz is about the new Snow White movie, which surprised a lot of people, not in a good way. The film didn't do well at all in theaters. Audiences didn't show up, and the movie failed to bring in the money.
Do me a favor, go to IMDb and just type in Snow White IMDb, okay? Watch this here, folks. Go to Snow White. Look at the reviews.
1.6. Was that?
No, look at how many reviews there is. Zoom in if you could, Rob. Does it show you or no?
562 user reviews.
No, that's not the one, Rob. It's if you go. There's 163,000 reviews, Rob. 163,000 reviews. I just texted it to you.
To the top right, maybe, Rob.
Yeah, right there. Zoom in right there. That's it. 163,000 rating, of which it got 1.6, not out of 5. Like, you know, sometimes you go to McDonald's, it's 1.6 out of 5. Yeah. 1.6 out of 10.
Money the studio had hoped for. It quickly became one of the biggest box office flops in recent years. Rachel Zegler, a well-known Latina actress best known for her role in West Side Story, was originally cast as Snow White. But later on, the production team made changes, and they replaced her with Brett Cooper. Brett.
The more that y'all try to make me hate Rachel Zegler, the more that it's not gonna happen. Rachel Zegler has been getting dragged all across social media, and multiple articles coming out trying to say that she is the reason why Snow White is not doing well.
Is a popular conservative YouTuber and host from The Daily Wire. She was picked to lead another version of the movie, titled Snow White and the Evil Queen. That decision sparked a lot of debate and really split the fan base. But no matter who was cast, the real issue became the film's weak performance in theaters. Despite being backed by a major studio, the movie struggled right from the beginning. It brought in about $43 million during its opening weekend, which at first looked promising.
What are the most rated movies on IMDb? What are the worst rated movies on IMDb?
Probably Ishtar or something like that, going back.
Bottom of what is it? I mean, I'm going through some of these lists here. 160-something thousand reviews. Maybe it hasn't updated yet. With a 1.6 stars. Absolutely embarrassing for somebody. Did you see the clip of her at the theater watching it by herself? Have you seen that one or no? I don't know if you saw that or not.
I saw a brief little...
Yeah. Adam, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think there's a common theme here. I think the Democratic Party and Disney are attached at the hip. So I think there's a common thread with approval ratings and the stock price of what's happened with the Democratic Party and with Disney. You know the famous phrase, go woke, go broke? Right now, Disney, their big blockbuster movie has plummeted, much like the Democratic approval ratings that reached, I think, an all-time low at, 27%?
But soon after, ticket sales dropped fast. By the second weekend, earnings fell by nearly 70%, and most theaters were almost empty. After 2 weeks, the total box office hit just over $120 million worldwide. For a big-budget film, that was far below expectations. Industry insiders are calling this movie's failure a serious loss for the studio. Some say the story and style of the film just didn't connect with audiences. Experts believe this flop may push studios to think twice before changing classic stories too much to fit modern trends. During all the backlash, Rachel Zegler didn't stay silent. Instead of accepting responsibility for the film's failure or staying quiet about it, she publicly blamed other things. One of the main targets of her frustration was the new version of Snow White featuring Brett Cooper. She argued that having both versions released around the same time confused the audience. In several public posts, Rachel criticized the timing and decisions made by the studio. According to her, the movie's poor results weren't just about weak storytelling or bad marketing. She believed other
really happened with Snow White? And is there somebody that we can blame? Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot were rarely together. And if they were there, they weren't really communicating, they were taking a picture, and then they were just going their separate ways. People were going, what could have happened on this set to make this so uncomfortable? And then the light bulb moment happened. It is their starkly contrasting views on the Israel-Palestine conflict that they have been extremely vocal about for the last year and a half. Now, Gal Gadot is obviously, she is from Israel, she is staunchly pro-Israel, and Rachel is incredibly pro-Palestine.
It's Hollywood, baby.
And so obviously, in 2025, this is a recipe for disaster.
Outside factors played a big role too. Critics have said that when Rachel Zegler blamed Brett Cooper and the Daily Wire, she was avoiding the real problems with the movie. Many fans expected Rachel to take some responsibility, or at least admit that some choices may have contributed to the film's failure. But instead, she stuck to her beliefs about modernizing old stories. She continued to defend her idea that Snow White needed a fresh, updated version to fit today's world. On the other side of the argument is Brett Cooper. Her casting in the Daily Wire's version of Snow White caught a lot of people off guard. Unlike Rachel, Brett chose to stick closely to the original themes of the fairy tale, messages about kindness, love, and inner beauty. Some people see her movie as a direct answer to the recent trend of changing classic stories. Still, her traditional approach has also stirred debate among fans who disagree about how these stories should be told today. Brett Cooper explained that her version of Snow White is meant to honor the original. She wants to tell the story clearly and simply, without adding modern or political messages that have frustrated many longtime fans. She believes the story doesn't need extra meaning. It should be told the way it was meant to be, plain and powerful. The argument between Rachel Zegler and Brett Cooper really comes down to their very different ideas about what storytelling should look like. Fans of Rachel appreciate her honesty and admire that she speaks her mind. They think her push to question old traditions is important in today's world. On the other hand, Brett's supporters respect her decision to stay faithful to the original story. They believe that timeless tales don't need to be rewritten to make a strong impact. They also say the movie's box office failure shows that audiences still want a good story, not just modern changes. Both sides seem to agree on one thing. If you're going to make a live-action version of a beloved classic, you have to respect the heart of the original. Unfortunately, in this case, many people felt the message, casting choices, and how the film was promoted didn't live up to expectations. That's why the movie and the actors involved have faced so much criticism. Social media has only made the argument louder. Online, people are taking sides. Some support Brett Cooper, while others defend Rachel Zegler. One common complaint in the comments is that no one has truly accepted blame for how things turned out. A lot of viewers are disappointed because they feel the movie lost the magic of a simple and enjoyable story. Many people talking about it online have pointed out that the original Snow White, made in 1937, came from a completely different time. They say that if you're going to make changes to a story like this, whether it's Disney doing it or the Daily Wire, you need to still respect the source material. When either version strays too far from what made the story special, it leads to even more arguments and confusion among fans. The negative response to Snow White isn't just about this one film. Experts believe the failure might have long-term effects on the careers of the people involved. Rachel Zegler, for example, has been heavily criticized for what she said publicly. Now there are rumors that her connection to this project and the way she handled it online might make studios hesitant to give her big roles in the future. As for Brett Cooper, she's now in a position where her movie is seen as making a strong cultural statement. Some think her bold, no-nonsense approach could open new doors for her in the industry. But others warn that this same controversy might come back to haunt her if she takes on other projects in the future. The conversation about who gets to define Snow White's legacy isn't going away anytime soon. People are still arguing about it, and it's pushing studios to take a closer look at how they choose their stories. Now filmmakers have a choice. Do they keep following modern trends, or do they go back to focusing on telling simple, entertaining stories that people love? One big takeaway from all this is that just adding trendy themes or political messages isn't a guaranteed way to make a hit movie. In fact, it can sometimes backfire. That's why some industry insiders are saying it's time to go back to basics. They believe future movies should focus more on what made these fairy tales beloved in the first place. That means telling a sincere story, one that feels honest and timeless, instead of turning it into a message about modern issues. This whole situation with Snow White has become much bigger than just one movie. It shows what today's audiences expect, how much casting matters, and how hard it can be to balance fresh ideas with old favorites. People are still talking about it, not just online, but in film studios too. Both Rachel Zegler and Brett Cooper now have to work hard to change how the public sees them. Studios, fans, and critics are paying close attention to what they do next. There's hope that the lessons from this experience will help create better versions of classic stories in the future. Versions that honor the original while still being exciting for today's viewers. Every choice, whether it's the message or who gets cast, is more important than ever in a fast-changing film industry. And with beloved stories like Snow White, those decisions matter even more. Thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments which version of Snow White you think stayed truest to the original story. And stay tuned for more updates and clear discussions about everything happening in Hollywood today.